At 6:14 local time, the first warning is not a siren. It is a shift in the pattern. Inside the operations center, 3 surface contacts that had been moving on loose, harmless-looking tracks suddenly turn together. Not slowly, not by chance. 3 bows swing almost in perfect sequence until all of them are aimed toward the same point. A U.S. Navy vessel. Surface contacts changing course, the watchstander reports. Bearing 089. 3 vessels closing. On the bridge, no one wastes a word. The sea is calm, the morning light is sharp, and the horizon is clear enough for every movement to stand out. Off the starboard side, 3 dark shapes sit low on the water. They are still distant, but they are no longer easy to dismiss. Moments earlier, they looked like ordinary traffic. Now they look like purpose. The captain watches through the bridge glass, his expression unchanged. Track all 3, he says. Bridge to bridge hail. Record everything. That is how it begins. No raised voices, no dramatic speeches, just procedure. The first radio call goes out across the maritime channel, clear and formal. Unidentified surface vessels, this is a United States naval vessel operating in international waters. You are closing on an unsafe bearing. State your intentions. Nothing comes back. No answer. No course change. No sign of hesitation. Inside the operations center, the team starts breaking the scene into pieces. One contact is slightly ahead of the other 2 and gaining speed. Another begins moving wider along the formation's left side, not falling behind, but taking position. The third remains just outside the line, keeping enough distance to react to whatever comes next. This is not a random approach, it is spacing. The tactical action officer leans closer to the display. Lead contact accelerating, 7.8 nautical miles. Another voice follows at once. Outer contact widening starboard. Possible flanking position. The captain hears every word through the bridge circuit. He does not interrupt. He does not have to. On a U.S. Navy vessel, everyone in that chain understands what those movements suggest. 1 vessel to apply pressure, 1 vessel to block, 1 vessel to support. Outside, the forward mount shifts a few degrees, not as a provocation, but enough to be seen. Long-range optics lock on. Electronic monitoring begins searching for signals. Every radar sweep, every change in bearing, every knot of speed is now being logged. Not because anyone wants the situation to grow worse, because if it does, the record has to be exact. At 6:15, the nearest contact becomes clearer on the camera feed. A gray hull, a fast military profile, no friendly signal, no attempt to identify itself. 6.9 nautical miles, the operations center reports. The second radio call goes out, firmer this time. Iranian vessels approaching U.S. Naval vessel, alter course immediately. You are creating an unsafe situation. Still nothing. No voice, no radio click, no reply at all. Just 3 vessels continuing to close. The bridge stays almost unnaturally quiet. Through the windows, the wake lines tell the story before the hulls do. The lead Iranian vessel drives straight in, its bow cutting a clean white trail across the blue water. The second contact angles inward from the opposite side, tightening the space ahead of the U.S. vessel's projected path. The third remains farther out, watching, waiting, and keeping room to move. Inside CIC, the labels change. Contact 1, lead approach. Contact 2, crossing pressure. Contact 3, outer support. It is calm, technical language for a pattern that is becoming harder to ignore. At 6:16 local time, one of the Iranian vessels briefly changes the electronic picture. A narrow surface search sweep touches the U.S. naval vessel, then vanishes. Electronic monitoring confirms intermittent radar emission, the operator reports. Low power, they are painting. That matters not because it is a targeting lock, it is not. It matters because the approach is no longer only visual. They are now checking distance, heading, and speed. The movement has become more organized. The captain gives another order. Set higher alert posture. Maintain course. Do not escalate. That is the line for now. Hold steady. Do not give up the water ahead of the bow unless there is no other choice. Make the other side reveal its intentions through movement, not through guesswork. The range keeps falling. 6 nautical miles. Then 5.4. Then 5. The lead Iranian vessel is now close enough for the cameras to catch movement on deck. Crew members shifting positions, helmets visible, personnel stepping into place near the forward section. On the second vessel, a crewman appears near a mounted system. He is not operating it yet, but he is not ignoring it either. No one aboard the U.S. vessel mistakes that for routine seamanship. At 6:17, CIC updates the closest point of approach. The number is dropping fast. CPA under 3 nautical miles and shrinking. The words hit the room with weight because every sailor there understands what they mean. At sea, distance is time, and 3 miles can disappear quickly when several vessels are moving in from converging angles. The captain keeps his eyes on the water ahead. Hail them again. The transmission goes out one more time. Iranian naval vessels, alter course now. You are approaching a United States naval vessel at an unsafe distance. This is your final warning. Still nothing. No answer over the radio. No turn away from the bow. No reduction in speed. Instead, the three vessels tighten their movement. The lead contact drives forward like the point of a spear. The second cuts inward to shape the intercept. The third remains farther out, exactly where a support vessel would want to be if the situation suddenly changed. On the bridge, nobody calls it simple harassment anymore. Inside CIC, the tactical action officer looks at the screen and says what the geometry has already made clear. This is coordinated. At 6:18 local time, with the range dropping below 4 nautical miles, 3 Iranian vessels continue closing on a single U.S. naval vessel from 3 angles at once. And the first truly critical minute has just begun. 6:19 local time. The formation begins to tighten around the bridge. Nobody says it out loud at first. They do not need to. The radar picture says enough. The lead Iranian vessel surges ahead by another 2 knots, its wake thickening into a hard white line. Off the port side of the formation, the second vessel cuts inward with more commitment now. It is no longer simply shadowing. It is no longer just testing distance. It is moving to shape the water in front of the U.S. vessel's bow. Inside CIC, the update comes quickly. Lead contact now 26 knots, crossing contact tightening angle, outer contact holding wide and matching. 3 separate movements, 1 coordinated effect. The captain keeps his hands still on the bridge rail. Maintain speed, minimal rudder corrections only. That order matters. Too much movement now, and the U.S. vessel gives away the initiative. Too little, and the pattern tightens around her. This is the part of a maritime standoff that never looks dramatic from a distance. No obvious chaos, no cinematic signal, just steel moving across open water, each turn pushing the other side into a smaller and smaller box. At 6:20 local time, the nearest Iranian vessel is close enough for the long-range optics to show hull detail. Gray paint, a sharp bow, light spray breaking across the foredeck. Crew members visible topside. One man stands near the forward mount. Another moves aft with urgency, not confusion. The surface warfare coordinator speaks into the net. No indication of distress, no indication of navigation error. That leaves intent. Another bridge-to-bridge call goes out. Iranian naval vessels, you are creating a risk of collision with a United States naval vessel. Alter course immediately. Silence. No voice, no radio click, no answer through the static. Just the steady rush of water under the hull and 3 separate wakes narrowing toward the same patch of sea. The second Iranian vessel keeps cutting inward. It is no longer simply approaching the American ship. It is shaping a crossing line, threatening to force a turn or a reduction in speed. The third vessel remains farther out, preserving angle and distance in exactly the right place to reinforce the close pass, or take advantage of whatever opening the first 2 create. Inside CIC, the closest point of approach updates again. CPA, now 2.1 nautical miles. Then, a moment later. Time to CPA, 6 minutes. The bridge grows even quieter. That number is no longer just uncomfortable. It is operationally dangerous. The captain makes the next decision carefully. Bring the close-in defense system to ready status. Keep it cold. Below deck and above deck, systems shift without drama. There is no panic, no noise for effect, only the low hum of machinery moving into a higher posture. Remote stations align, sensors sharpen their tracks. The ship does what it was built to do. Take in information, hold discipline, and wait until action becomes unavoidable. At 6:21 local time, the Seahawk crew is ordered to stand by on the flight deck. The rotor blades are still tied down for the moment, but the aircraft is no longer just part of the background. It is becoming an option, a presence tool, an eye in the air, a warning that can move faster than the ship itself. Then the Iranian lead vessel makes its boldest move yet. Instead of holding a parallel pressure line, it turns harder across the American ship's projected path. Lead contact crossing, CIC snaps. The camera feed shows it clearly. The Iranian vessel is not drifting. It is driving at speed across the U.S. vessel's bow, forcing a decision in real time. If the American captain holds course too long, the distance closes to a level where collision becomes possible. If he turns too early, he gives up sea room without resistance. The purpose of the maneuver is not subtle. It is pressure made physical. CPA 1.5, CIC reports. The officer of the deck watches the angle through the bridge glass, judges the closure, and waits 1 second more. Then the captain gives the order. Right 5 degrees. Steady. Do not overcorrect. The helm answers instantly. Outside, the bow of the U.S. vessel shifts just enough to open water where there was almost none left. It is not retreat. It is controlled avoidance, the smallest movement needed to prevent a collision while still holding position. Professional, measured. But everyone on board understands what has just happened. Iran forced a reaction, and the moment it happens, it goes into the record. At 6:22 local time, the lead Iranian vessel cuts across the forward sector at a dangerous distance. Spray breaks from its hull as it slices through the American vessel's path, close enough to turn a navigation crisis into a tactical message. The second vessel sees the turn and tightens from the opposite side, as if ready to take advantage of any hesitation. The third remains outside the pocket, disciplined and patient, watching for the next opening. Inside CIC, the tactical picture becomes harder to ignore. They are collapsing the maneuver box, one operator says. No one challenges it. The electronic monitoring station catches another brief sweep. This one lasts longer and feels more deliberate. They are scanning us again. On the optics feed, a figure moves near a deck-mounted system on one of the Iranian vessels. Another crew appears close to a launcher housing, maybe preparing, maybe signaling. In a moment like this, maybe is already too much. The captain does not raise his voice. Mark dangerous maneuvering. Repeat the warning. The radio call goes out immediately, firm and unmistakable. Iranian vessels, you are conducting unsafe and escalatory maneuvers near a United States naval vessel. Alter course now. For the first time, a burst of sound comes back from one of the Iranian ships. Not a full transmission, not a clear reply, just a clipped, distorted fragment across the channel, too short to understand and too sharp to ignore. Then the outer contact changes speed. Not away, forward. Inside CIC, three heads turn toward the screen at the same time. Outer contact accelerating. The bridge looks out over bright morning water, now cut by converging wakes and tightening angles. One ship has already forced a turn. Another is inside a dangerous crossing range. The third is moving up, no longer content to wait outside. This is no longer pressure alone. This is a setup. And at 6:23 local time, as the first vessel clears the bow and the second closes from the flank, sudden movement flashes across one Iranian deck. Inside CIC, the call lands hard. Deck system movement. 6:23 local time. The first launch does not sound like a movie. It is short, flat, and brutally simple. From the outer Iranian vessel, smoke bursts from the deck line. Not a flare, not sea spray. Something has left a rail or tube at speed. Inside CIC, the call comes instantly. Launch smoke, outer contact, outer contact. The bridge does not freeze. It tightens. The captain turns once toward the tactical display. Set self-defense posture. Respond by doctrine. That is the moment the encounter changes. Until now, every movement has existed in the narrow space between intimidation and open action. Now that space is gone. The defensive systems respond at once. The U.S. vessel's sensors, already tracking, shift from observation to protection. Threat symbols appear across the consoles. The outer Iranian vessel is no longer just a contact to monitor. It is the primary danger. Track assigned. Solution building. Recommend immediate countermeasure. The ship is already moving before the words are finished. Electronic protection comes fully online. Decoy logic arms. Defensive systems align across the vessel like nerves firing through one body. There is no drama in it, only speed. This is what training looks like when steel, discipline, and lives are all on the line. Outside, the sea that had looked empty and blue less than 10 minutes earlier is now cut into disorder by converging wakes. The lead Iranian vessel, the one that forced the turn across the bow, is still inside the danger ring. The second vessel remains off-angle, close enough to take advantage of any distraction. And now the third vessel, the patient one, has revealed why it stayed wide. It was saving room to launch. Time to threat? The captain asks. Seconds, CIC answers. Execute. A defensive response leaves the U.S. naval vessel in a blur of motion and bright light. The exact system matters less than the sequence. Detect, assign, respond. Confirm. The counter comes fast enough to break the threat before it can reach the ship. From the bridge windows, sailors catch a sharp flash low over the water, followed almost immediately by a hard burst of spray and dark smoke. Something out there stops short of its target. No one celebrates, because the engagement is already widening. The lead Iranian vessel, still forward of the American bow, turns hard, as if trying to turn confusion into a closer approach line. On the opposite side, the second vessel surges in, reducing the distance even more. Whether they expected the first launch to succeed or simply create an opening no longer matters. Their formation has crossed into open engagement. Contact 1 closing. Contact 2 increasing speed. Multiple hostile vessels inside surface engagement zone. The captain's next order is direct. Take the nearest source first. Break the formation. That becomes the entire logic of the moment. Not to answer everything at once. Not to chase the widest contact first. Break the coordinated move before all three vessels can act like one system. The forward gun answers. This time, the sound is impossible to mistake. Heavy, measured, mechanical force delivered with purpose. The rounds are not placed into the sea as a warning. They are directed onto a hostile surface track at dangerous range. The nearest Iranian vessel, the one that had cut aggressively across the bow and stayed inside the pocket, takes the first impact. On the optics feed, the strikes show as sharp flashes along the forward half of the hull. Then smoke rises. Then debris bursts outward from the superstructure. Contact one hit, CIC reports, but the Iranian vessel does not stop cleanly. It yaws, throws spray, and keeps moving. The rhythm is gone now. Its path through the water is no longer controlled. Speed begins to bleed away. Smoke thickens. Crew members on deck vanish from view. The second Iranian vessel reacts immediately, turning inward harder, as if trying to restore pressure through proximity. It closes from the flank, betting on short range and confusion. The U.S. naval vessel answers by changing the picture again. Left rudder, open the angle. Keep guns on contact 2. The ship bends just enough to deny an easy crossing lane while keeping its defensive arc. It is a small movement, but tactically it matters. The American vessel is no longer simply surviving inside the trap. It is reshaping it. At 6:25 local time, the sea between the vessels is covered with smoke, broken wakes, and the residue of spent propellant. What had been a clean three-angle approach is now fractured. One Iranian vessel is damaged and drifting out of disciplined motion. The second is pressing too close, too fast. The captain knows it. So does everyone else on board. Stay on it, he says. The outer Iranian vessel tries to hold its angle, but the effect of the earlier hit is visible now. Its bow line wavers. Smoke thickens around the forward section. The wake behind it loses its clean shape for a moment, then begins to shorten. It is losing speed. At the same time, the second Iranian vessel, the one that had been pressing from the flank, makes one last hard move. Maybe it sees the outer ship faltering. Maybe it knows the coordinated push is falling apart, and this is the final chance to force an opening before the formation breaks completely. Whatever the reason, it turns in again, trying to close the distance into a space where reaction time shrinks and the situation becomes even more dangerous. Contact 2 reapproaching fast. The bridge glass fills with motion, smoke hanging low, white water crossing white water, the damaged lead vessel drifting farther out of useful position. The outer vessel burning but still afloat. And now the flank ship coming in with desperate speed. The captain answers immediately. Shift fire, nearest threat. That is the logic of a professional fight at sea. Not anger, not fixation. The most urgent danger is the one that can still act first. The mounts realign, and the U.S. naval vessel strikes the approaching ship before it can complete the run. Impacts move across the waterline and into the visible structure above it. Through the optics, a sharp burst tears from near the center section of the Iranian vessel. Then another. The ship breaks off its line almost instantly, throwing itself into a hard, uneven turn to escape the danger area. Contact 2 breaking. Possible damage midship. For the first time since 6:14, all three Iranian vessels are no longer advancing as one coordinated group. One is trailing smoke and nearly out of the fight. One has lost the confidence to keep pressing forward. One is damaged at range and losing speed. Inside CIC, the shift is clear even before anyone says it out loud. The rhythm changes. The calls are no longer about surviving the geometry. Now they are about controlling it. Contact 1 drifting outside effective position. Contact 2 no longer on intercept heading. Contact 3 slowing. Fire still visible. The American vessel has taken back control of the engagement. Not because the sea has gone quiet. It has not. Smoke still drifts across the water. Radar returns still jump through clutter. Defensive stations still track every possible movement. But the balance is no longer the same. 8 minutes earlier, the Iranian vessels were shaping the water. Now they are reacting to it. At 6:29 local time, the last Iranian vessel still capable of maneuvering tries one final gamble. Instead of turning fully away, it cuts inward again, sharper than before, as if trying to force a close pass or create one last dangerous moment before withdrawing. It is not a disciplined move anymore. It is a final attempt from a vessel that knows the formation has failed. The bridge watches it unfold in real time. Contact 2 committing. The captain does not raise his voice. End it. The next American response is the cleanest of the entire engagement. The fire lands with enough accuracy to break whatever control and confidence the vessel still had. Through the camera feed, spray erupts high off the bow, followed by a flash along the forward deck line. Then the Iranian vessel veers hard away from the U.S. ship's track. It turns out. No longer shaping the fight, no longer trying to close, only trying to survive open water. That is the moment the battle truly changes. Not when the first launch happened, not when the first vessel was hit, but when the last coordinated move breaks and the sea stops belonging to the attackers. But when the last vessel, still capable of pressing forward, turns away under pressure, the meaning is clear. Inside CIC, the tactical action officer says what everyone can already see. They are breaking contact. The captain keeps watching as the three gray shapes spread back apart across a sea they no longer control. 8 minutes earlier, they had moved in like hunters. Now they are the ones trying to get clear. 6:31 local time. The water no longer looks the way it did when this began. 8 minutes earlier, the sea off the U.S. vessel's starboard side had been clear, blue, and open. Now it is cut by broken wakes, drifting smoke, and dark streaks spreading low across the surface. One Iranian vessel is trailing a heavy plume from the forward section. Another is moving out of the engagement on an uneven line. The third, the one that made the last desperate turn inward, is already swinging away, its stern digging hard as it tries to regain distance. Inside CIC, nobody assumes the danger is over. Maintain tracks on all three. Watch for secondary systems. Confirm no additional contacts. That is how a real fight ends at sea. Not with relief first, with verification. On the bridge, the captain stands exactly where he stood when the first three contacts turned together on the radar screen. Same posture, same voice. But the tactical picture around him has changed completely. The Iranian formation that came in as one coordinated threat is gone. The geometry is broken. Their timing is broken. Their confidence is broken. Still, a damaged vessel can remain dangerous. At 6:32 local time, the nearest Iranian vessel, the one that took the final precise response and turned away, does something that pulls every eye on the bridge back to the glass. Instead of continuing a clean withdrawal, its bow hesitates, then shifts slightly inward again. Not a full run, not yet, but enough to force the question. Inside CIC, the call comes immediately. Contact 2 showing minor reorientation, range increasing but bow angle shifting. The captain does not let the moment stretch. Keep systems trained on it. All across the American vessel, sensors stay fixed. The gun remains aligned. Optical systems hold the track. Electronic monitoring keeps listening for one more radar sweep, one more sign that this retreat might be a setup for a final move. For a few seconds, the damaged Iranian vessel hangs in that uncertain space between disengagement and one last gamble. Smoke pours from somewhere near the forward deck. Its wake is ragged now, less a clean tactical line than the signature of a damaged hull trying to stay afloat. On the optics feed, figures move across the deck in short bursts. Not with the coordinated rhythm of a crew still pressing forward, but with the disorder of people dealing with smoke, damage, and failing equipment. Then the U.S. naval vessel makes the final move of the engagement. Not reckless, not emotional, final. A precise burst cuts across the water ahead of the Iranian vessel's new angle. Close enough to make the answer unmistakable. Accurate enough to leave no doubt about what comes next if it turns in again. The effect is immediate. The Iranian vessel's bow swings back out harder. This time, there is no hesitation, no second thought. Inside CIC, the report lands almost calmly. Contact 2 now fully withdrawing. That is it. That is the payoff. Not a dramatic speech, not a chase over the horizon. Just the moment when the last opposing vessel, still thinking about one more move, decides against it. At 6:33 local time, the three Iranian vessels are no longer one coordinated problem. They are three separate survival situations. Contact 1, the original lead vessel, is still afloat but seriously damaged, venting smoke and barely holding a clean line through the water. Contact 2 is leaving the area the fastest, damaged enough to abandon the engagement, but still intact enough to escape. Contact 3. The vessel that had waited for a clean firing lane and then lost it under disciplined American response is now dropping farther astern. Its speed is visibly reduced and its deck carries the marks of the moment that took away its initiative. The U.S. naval vessel does not chase blindly. That matters, because this is not panic. This is not revenge. This is controlled discipline all the way to the end. The ship holds the battle space, confirms there is no immediate second wave, checks for damage, and keeps every sensor looking outward. The crew knows better than to confuse advantage with safety. If three opposing vessels coordinated one move, there could always be another layer beyond the horizon. The captain begins the transition from engagement to control. Damage report, magazine status, recheck sectors. The answers come back one by one, clipped and professional. The American vessel is still in the fight, still maneuvering, still controlling the water around it. No one cheers inside CIC, no one slams a console. The bridge stays quiet except for reports, acknowledgements, and the steady language of a crew doing exactly what it was trained to do. By 6:34 local time, the engagement is effectively over. Smoke trails stretch across the morning sea, marking the place where the Iranian formation came apart, minute by minute. The vessel that began the confrontation by forcing pressure across the American bow is no longer able to threaten the ship. The flank vessel that tried to exploit confusion has been driven away. The outer vessel that waited for the cleanest opening never got to use the advantage it thought it had. They had numbers. They had the first move. They had 3 angles against 1 U.S. naval vessel. But once they crossed from intimidation into direct action, they ran into the one thing the U.S. Navy is built to do with extraordinary discipline. Detect early, stay calm, follow procedure, and respond with precision. From the bridge, the captain watches the 3 Iranian vessels scatter farther apart across open water. No longer moving like hunters, no longer coordinated, no longer in control. They came in with numbers. They left behind smoke.